Mr. Bernie Brody, you, sir.
Yeah.
That's Mr. Bernie Brody, you, ma'am. Don't get it twisted. That's Mr. Bernie Brody, you, ma'am. Still the burn. Power to the people.
Rise up, children, revolution starts from your backyard. Soul confusion, lipstick music, taking back the power. Ah, that's right where we are. They wanna build a wall. Kids start quickly knocking down like a cannonball. Oh, trap my soul, blow my fuse with hate and gold. Heed the call, rise up, kids, I'm about to hit you like a cannonball. Thank you guys so much. We really only have one chance with Bernie. And like, for people my age, I've been spreading the word, trying to, I've convinced a good amount of them. They're all, it's just the CNN and MSNBC and the people with the cash who fund it. They are going to stop at nothing to stop Bernie. But we have the people. Everyone's into Bernie. You see it here. Biden's not bringing these people. Biden's bringing, I think Biden's office here in LA is like abandoned and they have a lock on it. So, you see it here, the proof's in the pudding. It's like the 60s, we really have someone to root for, finally.
Big thing for me with Bernie is A, climate change, Green New Deal, and B, the fact that he's not taking money from super PACs. I feel like he's the first candidate that we've had in a long time that has a shot at winning that actually isn't taking money from corporations, and I feel like it is our responsibility as citizens to actually act on that. It would be stupid to not. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity so far. At least for me, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
I think Bernie is a very important candidate. He's for the people. You can tell he's the only one who's not campaigning in favor of special interests, and he supports the Green New Deal, like he said. I really appreciate that because climate change is very near and dear to my heart. And also, his fight for healthcare for all. I think that's really important. I'm lucky enough to have healthcare, but I think we have a responsibility to take care of our fellow citizens, and I think everyone deserves Medicare for all.
I love Bernie because he loves all of us. Medicare for all. My mom's epileptic, and we grew up having to have my dad work overtime to pay for her medication, and so I basically had to raise my brother by myself. And I think under Bernie, I could have spent a lot more time with my parents, and that would have been great.
I love that Bernie is stands against everything that Trump stands for. All the bullshit, the garbage, corporate elitism. Bernie seems like he's for the people. And look, I love all the Democratic candidates. I love Warren. I love, Buttigieg is good. They all have to say a lot. Bernie's been holding his position for years and years. And, I'm gonna see the man in the flesh and see if he can, if I think he can do it. I think he can. So let's make it happen.
I'm stoked on this event because it's Chuck D, and I would not be standing here today supporting Bernie Sanders if it wasn't Chuck D teaching me politics 20 plus years ago. So this is an ultimate event for me, if you will. It's possible that my family is from the same area of Poland as Bernie, so that is a plus. But we've had similar politics for a long, long time, and I'm just happy someone is expressing them to the mainstream. These were people who were politically awoke many, many years ago are now catching on and going, oh my goodness, the progressives and the leftists were right all along, and let's get cracking. So, it's finally, I'm happy that there's a voice 100% and a viable voice. As much as I love Nader, he wasn't a viable candidate at the time. Bernie's viable, so I'm happy to be here. Let's be the change. Let's pay it forward. Let's talk. Let's set examples to the kids. Especially, holding a door open for someone is helping our fellow man. It's a small increment on this, but it builds momentum going into the future.
The biggest like specific issues are climate change and Medicare for all, but just in general, I think he's the only person that like has the right philosophy or mindset to deal with the problems that are coming up. Like I'm really worried about climate change and the effect that's going to have on like geopolitics. I think he's the only one with like foresight to say like, okay, we need to like build a movement and organize everybody.
I just like that he's old. He doesn't have to fight for anybody, and he's still choosing to fight for people. Like, honestly, like, none of this matters, and none of this, like, the fact that he's so selfless enough to, like, do that, like, that's what this job requires, is for you to care about fucking people. Sorry. But, like, it's just, like, there's so many people that don't care about people, and I feel like that is, like, a huge requirement, along with all the things he said. But for me, like, a huge priority is just being a decent fucking person. I love Bernie Sanders. I love what he stands for. He's loud. He like appeals to like the younger generation, which not a lot of candidates like that I follow does, and I think that's really cool. I think that's important. Healthcare, for sure. And then he like talked about student debt a lot, and I think that's important as well. So, especially living in like California, like everything is so heightened and expensive out here. Like that's an important factor.
I was here the first time around, and what's cool about this is there's a lot fucking more of us. It was really hard in 16 because we fought long hours and dedicated all the days. There was a lot of shenanigans, but what's cool about now is that we have 4 more years that people got to know him and got to read about his policies and his track record, and there's no denying his consistency, and so I feel hopeful, but the establishment is always pulling out shenanigans, like, you know, in Iowa, but it's really refreshing after 4 years to see so many more people show up, so I'm excited to be with more supporters this time around, and hopefully that makes a difference, because if there's more people, it's sort of, you can't deny the momentum this time around. So I'm excited.
It's really important that he's addressing inequality, but also the different kinds of inequality that we face. And he's talked about that, you know, the kind of racial inequality, gender inequality. So I think he understands that to deal with it, we really have to look first at the people that are suffering the most. And as we're helping everyone, pay special attention to that. I think that's really important, and especially building support from communities of color. I think that's really, really important.
He's got a kick-ass educational program, and all his work on poverty is going to help kids too. Bernie was the first politician to put on social media that he supported the United Teachers Los Angeles strike last January, and he was at the strike. We were the second union, the first education union to endorse Bernie, UTLA, and he's been with us. We're going to be with him. We're out there walking for him. There's a lot of teachers in LA that are walking and talking about Bernie.
I've supported Bernie since 2016, and I say that he's the person who seems most interested in people, rather than helping elites who are in control of our country. So, I owe over $50,000 in college debt. So forgiving college debt and free college for all, and I broke this leg, and then I severely sprained this ankle, and so having Medicare for all would also be really helpful. I mean, really, I think all of his policies are just much farther in the direction of helping individuals and helping communities than any of the other candidates, and so for me, it's really no contest. Go Bernie.
I support Bernie because he's all for free healthcare, and personally I have epilepsy, and that would help so much. It's ridiculous the amount we have to pay to literally stay alive. If I don't have medicine, I'm dead. But yes, please vote for Bernie 2020.
Thank you. I support Bernie because I know that there are millions of Americans throughout this country who struggle every day to pay their health care bills and to pay off their college debt. And I think that Bernie's the only candidate that's willing to help all these Americans achieve their goals.
He's just consistent. Consistency is key. When you can't trust a lot of the politicians out there, it seems like he really talks for the people. Haven't been to a political rally since Ron Paul. So here we are. We're back with Bernie.
I'm more here for
for what he represents to my children. I'm lucky enough to have a good job, pension, insurance. My children, they're in their 20s, not so much. So he represents a time where we had that, and I fear that my children are not going to have that. So that's why he has my support.
Bernie's the man. I don't know. Everything, man. He's a socialist. What more not to like?
His entire platform, from Medicare for All to his education platform. I have 2 little kids, and they're going to be going to college. And I mean, everything I work for can either go to a university or can help them in their future after university. And that's one of the big things that drives me. And just his stance on humanity is really what's got us all here.
I echo his sentiment. I mean, it's probably the only politician that I really feel actually cares for the people. His platform, everything that he kind of speaks of, I agree with, so I support him.
Progressive and canceling student loan debt. I like that he's very inclusive of everyone who's like voting this year. You know, he's talking to all the groups that want to hear their voices being heard.
The Green New Deal, strong emphasis on fighting climate change, and I like that that's one of his top priorities, and he has a very intensive plan for it.
I just like the universal health care. I like the idea of that.
Student loans!
College free tuition, livable wages.
My family is like from Scotland, so it's like they've had the NHS growing up, you know, so I obviously got brought up thinking that that's what we supported, like the Democratic Party supported that, and I found out like a few years ago that was not the case, so I was like, oh, well, that's crazy, so here we are.
Free education for everybody, though. One of the biggest issues that I have is the issue around climate change. Specifically, we have children. You know, we're worried about what our children are going to be left with. Aside from that, what that plays into contextually is the idea that we're a system that's hierarchically based. So the idea that I'm sitting here and having to listen to people tell me that based on who we are, how much money we have, whether or not we're of a specific race or ethnicity, things of that nature, I'm not playing that game. I'm done playing that game. And so I'm not trying to hear any of that garbage no more.
We're really excited.
Not me, us.
No more Nazis in the White House.
Believe it or not, I actually like everything about Bernie. Everything, especially his integrity. He's not a sellout. That's what we need right now. But Bernie, he just wants everyone to have like what everyone should have. And that's just like basic human rights and
He cares about people and is the first person to like, you know, consistently for all of his history, he can dig back as far as he's ever been alive, and everything he's ever done is for people.
Bernie's our man. Bernie, the nurses love Bernie. We endorsed him in 2016. We're endorsing him in 2020. He's the only candidate for the working class. He's pro-labor, pro-union, Medicare for all, climate change. He's the only candidate who's going to address all the issues that our society is facing today. He's our guy. Go Bernie.
We like his politics, like his star power. I think he's our best shot to defeat Trump. Getting health care for everyone, education. The biggest one for me is he's the only candidate who talks about getting money out of politics. Getting, billionaires to stop buying elections. Like, that's kind of an important thing that I think no one really seems to talk about that except for him.
Oh, for Bernie.
Yeah. For me, I guess you could say immigration, wealth reform, you know? And I guess you could just overall just say, like, if you look at this crowd, it's just all diverse, but it's all, like, really, like, a younger generation, I feel like, you know? Like, I see all these other rallies on TV, and no disrespect, but I just feel like it's like a lot of just like older crowds or whatever they might be, but like I just feel like I could associate with people like this more.
Bernie is incredibly consistent. He never changes his tune. You can feel that it's real, that it's not just a power-hungry grab. He has been consistent for the 40 years. There's no doubt.
I was at the Los Angeles Coliseum 4 years ago when Dick Van Dyke was here too. And I love Bernie because I want to get money out of politics. I run for local office and the money is crushing. It's absolutely suffocating in politics. You can't imagine the weight of all that money against you. It's just impossible. I mean, it makes like competition kind of a joke, or an election a joke.
It's housing, homelessness, and he hasn't fully explicated yet, but I'm an abolitionist, so policing, on top of all the other things, but helping make LA a more livable city. I work in anti-gentrification, and I think he's the best candidate in that realm. No Olympics. The Olympics are trash. We're going to get the endorsement from him eventually.
I love Bernie. I've loved him for now a bit, and I'd say it's just the directness, the direct consistency. Consistency about the Green New Deal, consistency about just everything that we're not doing.
Workplace democracy.
I'm a Bernie supporter. You know, I think he's fair. We have to do something a little more than the ordinary, you know. And it's just too ordinary. Stop sucking up, you know, and kick some ass.
The fact that he acknowledges climate change and that we need to get off fossil fuels, clean up our air, clean up our water. That's a big issue. And get us on board with taking care of all of our citizens as far as Medicare for all.
Climate change. What I like about Bernie is he got the plan that this country needs. The student debt. Stop the meaningless war. Medicare for all. Those are the things that we need. And Bernie is going to provide that. I feel the burn.
I like his passion behind climate change. I think he's really going to have the strongest plan to get things done about that and like save the future, hopefully. That's what I love about Bernie. And he's not going to back down.
Healthcare for sure. Yeah. I mean, my parents are getting older, and I don't know how long they'll be able to afford healthcare and how long I'll be able to pay for them. So being able to have a more affordable system is going to be absolutely crucial.
I just think it's sad that we're one of the only developed countries that just doesn't guarantee healthcare as a human right, and I think that's wrong, and we're here to support Bernie any way we can.
Medicare for all, ending corruption, getting money out of politics as best as possible, the fact that the people get to choose who the candidate is as opposed to billionaires, millionaires, all that stuff. I mean, it's just kind of wild. So yeah, the people, democracy.
Feel the burn.
I've been saying that I have a million reasons to support Senator Sanders, but the most pressing reason for all of us should be climate change. There is no one more qualified than Senator Sanders to lead us through climate change. And I know this because you can go on YouTube, you can actually search Bernie Sanders climate change 1987. I was 3 years old when he was warning us about climate change. And then he did, and you can see another one, 89. He's still warning us. And Greenpeace has given him an A+. He's the only one that's gotten an A+.
And the Sunrise Movement.
The Sunrise Movement has endorsed him as well. He's gotten the best, he's gotten the most legitimate endorsements to lead us through climate change. And that's just one of a million reasons that I have. Again, I actually kind of just mentioned it, but he's also been saying the same things since before I was born. The same things he's been talking about, going up against the most powerful interests since before I was born, and he's still saying it. He hasn't changed. He's consistent, his integrity's intact. I love the guy. I've never seen anyone more selfless, more virtuous than him.
I am out here at the Bernie rally trying to get people to sign some of the initiatives we're trying to get on the ballot. So we know that they've got good people that are interested in some of these initiatives. These are basically the laws of the people, so we're trying to get them to sign. Some of the initiatives we're working on deal with continuing stem cell research, helping funding for schools and hospitals on tribal land through the casinos and some gaming initiatives, and trying to do other things along those lines. So we're here trying to get support for the initiative we're trying to get on the ballot in November.
I like that Bernie is like for the people.
I like that he's standing up to big corporations and the insurance, the medical insurance industry that's scamming everybody pretty hard.
I like his overall track record of fighting for civil rights and equality, like for decades, not just right now.
Just his consistency over the years. I think, he's been the same person for decades now. And I think one of the questions I always have is the person going to genuinely try and make a change? And, or is just the political winds that are blowing the person? And I feel Bernie's legitimate. Like, I feel he's authentic in a way that most other candidates are not.
I'm like a first-generation Colombian American Jewish girl that was raised in Dallas, Texas, lives in Los Angeles. So I feel like an outsider all the time, pretty much in every sect. And so I feel like Bernie kind of speaks to me
and all of my niche, and he always has. And the thing about his consistency in my heart is that he's saying things that are really that extreme. Like, let's look at the trillions of dollars we're spending on military funding and put that into infrastructure, put that into voting rights, put it into education, and making sure that we're all equal and that we all have a voice. And I feel like it's really important. And I don't see that any candidate in the last 8 years has had that. And look at where we are and what's happening. You can't fight the people and our voice.
Medicare for all, I think that's a great issue that he's working on, and a lot of people can't pay and they're in great debt, so I think that's an issue that needs to be resolved now, and it's one of the biggest things that drives me here today.
The basic message of government should help people and be voted on by the people.
I'm mostly an environmentalist, and I believe that the fossil fuel industry is screwing up really badly. I've known about global warming since about 1962 or 64, somewhere in there. I read about it in my Catholic Weekly Reader back in St. Mark's in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, and I've been following it ever since. I also campaigned as a faux governor candidate when Schwarzenegger was there, and I brought my friends up from Compton to march around Brentwood Village chanting, "Arnold Schwarzenegger is the girly man, Maria's bodyguard was a manly looking woman. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the girly man, Maria's bodyguard was a manly looking woman." Thank you very much. I'm Alfred. I come to all of Bernie's stuff. He's a great guy.
She's a big Bernie fan, a huge Bernie fan. Tell him why you're a huge Bernie fan.
I just believe him. I think that he always tells the truth. He has the best interests of people in mind. He's been fighting for all of us since God knows how long. So I think that he just has the best of intentions and really wants to make this country better for all of us equally. So yeah.
Awesome. How about you? I'm British, so I can't vote, but I do. I'm a big Bernie fan because I believe that democracy should be a real thing and not just something that people kind of spout on campaigns. And he's a good guy. He's got good intentions. He's the equivalent of our Jeremy Corbyn, who was the governor of my school, and I'm off the left. So there you go.
I love that he seems more transparent, more for the people. About wealth inequality, it's a big one.
Because Bernie is Jewish, and I found out I'm a Jew, I'm voting for him. Not only for that reason, but he's a Polish Jew, and I'm a Russian Polish Jew. And so it would be like Obama being black, and then you're a black person, you don't vote for Obama, what the fuck, right? So I would never vote for Bloomberg because Bernie is a real good type of Jew. He isn't a billionaire, greedy one that puts people away and he doesn't frisk, he doesn't stop and frisk. My Bernie Sanders, they said, "Is this your husband?" That's not my husband, but look, he's hugging a tree. The tree is literally shaking hands with him.
Healthcare, and you know that he fights for low-income population and everybody else. I'm an urban planner, so that's my job to plan cities for basically the lowest common denominator of incomes and things like that. And so he fights for what I stand for.
Equal rights for women to get their whole damn dollar, right? Also for immigration for the DACA recipients, so they can have their rights. I believe in also the $15 minimum wage for everyone. He's fighting for the workers, fighting for us, for the common person, for all his adult life, civil rights, which I really admire his fortitude, his stance against the establishment.
I like Bernie. Bernie's cool. He's a little old, but what does age really matter? He seems like he's a healthy guy. He's been around for a very long time, and I think he can change a little bit. Basically, what we have right now is garbage. So why not have a little bit of change?
Bernie is great.
We just drove from San Diego here. I think like today is a big pivotal moment in U.S. history, and like wanted to be here for it. And I think that Bernie is going to bring a lot of change to the U.S.
I support Bernie Sanders because I think he's got the boldest platform that speaks to the majority of Americans in terms of the needs that we have to survive, right? So for working people, it's really hard to afford to live in a lot of the cities in this country. He calls for things like tenant protections and rent control, things like Medicare for all. We pay way too much for our healthcare system, and people are forced into really catastrophic decisions of whether or not I pay my rent or pay for my insulin medication. And so I think Medicare for All is a huge opportunity for working people to basically come up for a breath of air. But really I support him because he's been able to mobilize millions of people across the country for these very issues, and in a way that I've never seen in my entire life. And it's going to take the millions of us to really step up and fight for this program to make it win, so we can really transform our society and transform our country.
I mean, how do you follow that act? Yeah, I mean, for all the same reasons. I think Sanders, his whole campaign is about class struggle. You know, he talks about the billionaire class and the working class. And in our society, the billionaire class makes the decisions, exploits the working class, and we're the ones left with debt, school debt, medical debt, and people are really struggling. It's unaffordable, rent's unaffordable, and really what Sanders offers us is a way to kind of fight as a class, as a working class, to fight for our own interests. And I think when he talks about being an organizer-in-chief, I think it's one of the most important things to come out of American politics in a long time. When he talks about the political revolution against the billionaire class, now he wants to be organizer-in-chief, there's a lot of willing working class people that want to fight actively for what we need. And he's the first politician probably in 80 years that is calling on people to do just that.
We have a little Bangladesh in downtown Los Angeles. It's like a 2-mile square area dedicated, designated for Bangladeshi American people where they concentrate. So a lot of our friends also came here isolatedly, like not in an organized way, but
almost 500 people from our community.
Yeah, they on their own came here. So, but we both came with our community, placards, so that we are, supporting Bernie. We are with him from the very beginning. When he announced his candidacy last year, from the very beginning we are organizing. We are on social media. We are active. We have a social media page. This is our social media page portfolio. So we constantly update community people, engaging them with Bernie campaign, so that if he get elected, it helps all of us. For Medicare for all, climate crisis, free education, free college education, everything that he is proposing is actually a lifting of people. We firmly believe that these proposals, if he can implement across the board, all the immigrant communities will be benefited, as well as the mainstream Americans. We have been here for over 20 years. He's over 30 years, I'm over 20 years. So we are part of American life right now. We are citizens.
Bernie's my guy. It's all about doing for those who can't, do for themselves, fight for someone you don't know, This is really uncomfortable, doing something public and political, but it's less comfortable for me being on the sidelines this time. I took Trump for granted in 2016, so here I am this year.
With your help, we're going to win the Democratic nomination. And with your help, we are going to defeat the most dangerous president in the modern history of America. All across this country, the American people are saying, no, we will not have a pathological liar in the White House for 4 more years. We will not have a corrupt administration for 4 more years. We will not have a president who has apparently never read the Constitution of the United States. We will not have a president who is undermining American democracy, who believes he is above the law. In November of 2020, Donald Trump is going to learn that we are a democracy, not an autocracy, because we're going to throw him out of office.
Thought it was beautiful, it was wonderful, it was so awesome. Bernie Sanders for life!
Knew Bernie, knew about Bernie in 1984, 85. Big fan.
Healthcare.
Number one concern, healthcare, for sure. And feel the burn.
I loved it.
It's consistent. 4 decades says the same thing. You know, power to the people.
It was so much fun. Amazing.
Woo, Bernie! Ending student, Deb, and my favorite one is Medicare for All, obviously.
Yeah, great, yay!
Awesome.
We love people. That's what we love about him.
Very open consciousness is a hope for the nation, and it's on the way. Victory is on the way.
Bye-bye, go Bernie!
It was okay, but my speeches are better. You can get it from the broadcaster of the state national television of North Korea, DBRK. So when you see my speeches there, everybody stands up and clap. You know, it's the most amazing sight because if they don't stand up, you know they'll get killed. So that's how you get a good crowd going, you know. When their lives are at risk, then they know they could show some respect. Now I'm here in America and I'm very, very interested in and find it quite odd that this democracy thing. We also have one man, one vote, but there's only one man on the ballot paper, and that's me. You know, you guys have more than one. That's very strange for me. I love Trump. He's my best friend, and you know what? I don't need missiles to destroy America. With him in power, he's destroying for me. So thank you, Donald Trump. But this, Bernie said on 60 Minutes, he might want to talk to me directly, so here I am.
I just think it's the first time in a long time we've had a chance to live in the kind of world I want to live in. You know, we've been doing things wrong for a really long time and the system is very broken. And just because it doesn't affect you doesn't mean that everything around us isn't crumbling. And yeah, fight for someone you don't know. Everything's irrelevant if we can't figure out, you know, the crossroads we're at with the climate. So that obviously is very important. As far as like us specifically, I think Medicare for All is pretty groundbreaking. I mean, like, it's something that JFK was fighting for in 1962. You know what I mean? Like, we just have such a disconnect and a misunderstanding to what it is, and the people who are fighting against it, I just think they don't really understand. I stood in line, not to make any judgments, but I stood in line today out in San Bernardino behind people wearing Make America Great hats, and they were paying with EPT. Like, they just don't get it. They're being sold a bad system by a really good used car salesman. And they're going to get halfway down the road and it's going to break. And it's our duty, if we know better, to do what we can. It's shocking that we kind of look at Trump as being this big evil thing, which he is. But he wouldn't have existed if he didn't have media like Fox that were backing him and that were supporting him and that made that power possible. You know, and it's amazing to me that we're not more mad as a country at the corruption of the media, because that's really the root of all evil right now. We're all distracted, we're sitting on Instagram, we're watching these TV shows, we're doing all things based on entertainment, and we're not aware that we're just moving slowly towards this dystopia around us. And it's really, really terrifying.
I think what underscores the message is democracy for all, not just for the people with the billions, not just for the people who are passing the laws against us, but for all of us.
Patrisse Cullors and Anna Tijoux speaking about liberation for the rest of the world. If black people aren't free, nobody's free. I feel like, you know, Anna speaking from a Chilean perspective and saying like, endless wars, here's how that looks to the rest of us. I think having those folks up there and connecting with the Bernie movement like really inspired me. And I think Bernie speaking about ending the war on drugs, dismantling our prison system. I mean, it's pretty awesome to me to have a front-runner candidate speaking on those things that I care about a lot. Measure R is on the ballot in LA County this Tuesday. The LA County jail system is the largest system in the world for a county, municipality. And this would do two things. It would create accountability for the Sheriff's Department, which oversees our jails. 54 people have died in the county jails, and we can't investigate it because the Sheriff's Department has no accountability. And this would give oversight. And second thing that it does is it requires a plan be made in 7 months to move funding from the county jail system into mental health, housing, job training, and other re-entry programs. This is really, really groundbreaking, and if we can do it here with the largest jail system in the nation and in the world, then we hope that can spread. So please vote yes on R. So there's two parts for the Sheriff's Department accountability. It's a civilian oversight commission that already exists, but right now they don't have subpoena power to call forth evidence and witnesses. So they can talk about issues, but they don't have the power to investigate misconduct. So it would give them that power. And then the 7 months to create a plan to move the funding, that's something that the measure requires. And then we're gonna have to make sure that they actually implement that plan. I've done a canvassing for the measure, and then they also came to a racial justice conference at my union. I'm a teacher.
Bernie got us here. I was really glad the Black Lives Matter lady spoke and talked about our horrible DA that's let all these people be killed by the police and not prosecute any of them. I mean, literally every aspect of Bernie's platform.
Well, everything about Bernie. I've been a supporter since high school, since the last election. And
Before you could even vote.
Yeah, before I could vote. And everything that he talks about is good stuff. This is just everything across the board. So
how can you not support a person?
Because he cares for everyone. He's not biased. He's not funded by anyone but the people. So that's who he has to support.
For me, LGBTQ rights, as well as healthcare, and I mean, I think that to me is just something that it holds dear to my heart. I mean, like knowing people that have struggled and have died because of the lack of healthcare is something that really holds strong to our family. And so that's something that I support head on. And yeah, so hopefully, I mean, come Tuesday, we'll see.
Yeah, and
some changes. Yeah,
that'd be great. But I think the main thing that speaks to me is mainly ending the war on drugs and the war on terror, because they've just been such a costly and deadly excursion on America and other countries for almost 5 decades since Nixon, for the war on drugs and the war on terror since the 90s, and it's just been just deaths on America's side, Iraqi, Iranian, it's just all over. There's no, if we continue the same course that we're going, there's no end. Like, there's no way we can get out. There's just more death and more death and more money. And we just need someone who can stop that.
The immigration one is really important, and I was super excited for him to talk to it, especially to like Los Angeles people. I was like, yeah, that's like his people, and I'm really hoping that on Tuesday it'll help bring out, you know, like Latino people in California. It's really important. I'm hoping the same thing will happen in Texas, and I'm pretty sure it will. And it's gonna like, especially like if they show up, then it means that all the political people who are looking at who are looking at like the nation, they're like, oh, okay, Latinos are finally voting. Like finally, we can start caring about them, because right now they're not, and it's ridiculous. I'm really excited for immigration to change.
Particularly healthcare. I mean, the single-payer system for all should have been done a while ago. I mean, I know that Obama took steps in the right direction. It's time to actually finalize that, right? You look at any of like the best healthcare systems in the world. You look at like the Italies, the Spains, the Japans, all single-payer, not rocket science, right? So for me, you know, as somebody who's going into the healthcare field, that's top of the priority list for me, and Bernie's on the same page as well.
The entire reform this country has to go through. I mean, it's coming for a long time. You never hear other politicians talk about it. I love how Bernie's not afraid about doing it. I remember the last presidency when he was running, I did my homework. And I saw the videos 20, 30 years ago. He's talking about the same thing then as he is now. He hasn't changed. That's the thing about politicians. They flip-flop all the time when it's convenient or when it's popular. He wasn't popular then. We caught up to Bernie. He didn't catch up to us. I think we got a really great chance.
It is my first time. I'm not very political. I keep things to myself, but I started listening to things he's saying, things that it kind of makes sense. So when he told me that he had registered to come, I said, okay, I'll go. Let's see what he has to say. And very interesting. I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was 15 years old. So my country is very different to what people standing here. So I understand where he's coming from.
I think the most important part is that I think we forgot in America how this is for everybody. Not just one particular group of people. You know, it's supposed to be called the great melting pot. I think we forgot about that.
Bernie.
Well, just Bernie's ability to just go out there on a daily basis, multiple cities in a day. Like, it's just crazy. Like, I was tired coming here. My mom was like, Bernie can do this at like his 70s. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with me? So it's just crazy, and it's just really inspiring. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Our next president, baby.
Patrice Close was talking about the measures, R, voting yes on R. So that was really something. And then also just seeing all the speakers, especially Spanish speakers, being able to speak to everybody and everybody was open to like listening. I was really, really excited about everybody kind of gathering. We already knew Bernie's platform. I just wanted to hear everybody all together.
Bernie has a momentum, definitely. He energized the crowd, so that's for sure. And I like that about him. I hope he wins, but it's difficult, you know, especially with the system that is in place here. It's unfortunately not a real democracy, you know. It's, especially when it comes to a presidential election. I'm not saying local, that's fine, but presidential election is kind of a joke.
Healthcare is probably my biggest concern too, because I've lived here all my life and never really needed it. But I know as I get older and older, it's something that you have to be able to count on. And I know I have friends who've been directly affected because they had serious illnesses, even when they were young, 30s, 40s. They're bankrupt. They had to go bankrupt because they couldn't afford to pay the bills for the doctors and not everybody has it. They're so young, but it's inevitable that something can happen. And so you just got to be able to know that there's a system in place to help you make it through and not lose everything while you gain back your health.
Medicare for all, schooling, and the environment.
Abolish ICE, Medicare for all, and everything else. End the wars, the Dreamers.
Bernie, okay, so 2016, I was all about Bernie. I was hoping that he would win the primary there, but it didn't happen. They gave it to Hillary. Now, moving forward into the 2020 election, Bernie sits well with me because he's the one that's going to be the best candidate to run against Trump. I've looked at all the other candidates. I do like Elizabeth Warren, but I think Bernie Sanders has the people behind him. As we're seeing today, this thing was electric in there. Public Enemy, my favorite group of hip-hop, was just there. Like, that's good to have the support of Chuck D. And the reason I'm here really is because this is one thing I haven't heard them speak of today, and it's important. I work for the collective of black society. I am what I call a hood representative. So reparations for descendants of American slavery is very important. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to canvass. And if I can get the support of the people here, we can all work together. We can work in conjunction. Let's do this. I was there in Washington, D.C. the day Donald Trump was elected. I promise you. I mean, that was a wake-up call for us all. Wake-up call for us all. So I want to be there this year when Bernie Sanders gets the election. And we can work together to pull everything back and get it structurally sound in America. And a big part of that is for the people. The background I come from, the community, the demographic I come from, that we get our fair share. That's all we ask. Reparations. Kaepernick, I stand with Cap.
Everything, Medicare for all, education for all.
Medicare for all, he's
for unions, a Green New Deal. If I talk to my people on the left and the right, you know, everybody's pretty much in agreement, but it's just these labels are pitting us against each other, and then the way the mainstream media puts everything, it's not good. If we're able to talk to each other or hear each other out, totally different world.
Immigration, my wife's undocumented, 10 years of fighting. So I have a foundation that works with immigrants and refugees. I'm an activist in the immigration world, and we're targeted. She could get picked up any day. My 9-year-old and my 10-year-old know that mom can drop them off in the morning for school and can be in jail in the afternoon. So I've actually was lucky enough to have some face-to-face time with Bernie a few months ago about that. So yeah, that's our main issue.
We just want to end corruption of the government and get money out of politics. And so we're really voting for Bernie Sanders because we think Bernie Sanders will get money out of politics and return the government to the people.
For me, when you speak about the Latin community and how I just feel more represented in this election.
This is not just a political campaign, that is a movement.
Yeah.
Multi-generational, multi-racial, gender. I mean, there's not everybody who was born in a certain time frame after World War II did really well in life. I mean, a lot of people have suffered and been laid off, and the Rust Belt, you know, all those are boomers. Most of those people lost their jobs, you know, and it's like, you know, but I think we have a chance with only Bernie could speak to those people, and other than Trump. I don't think any other Democratic candidate can speak. But then we have Meridian, who's 23 years old, and Latina, from the San Gabriel Valley. You know, so like it is it's not just a cliche. It's an expanding electorate and an expanding movement, and
I remember like 4 years ago in the last election, like a lot of his views were not accepted as much as they are now, and that. So I have an understanding that what we're doing right now, it's contributing to the movement. So it doesn't end here. We're going to keep going, and hopefully, my nephew, my future kids, are going to benefit from what Bernie can bring to us.
I think first things first, we need to, deregulate so many different things that's happening with corporate America, before we can move on, with bigger issues, even with Medicare for All and all that. We got to stop these people, the elitists, from controlling everything. Once we do that, we can move forward, So, I mean, Bernie stands for that. He stands for climate change, which is huge, and we need to stop that too. We should have done that yesterday. When I first heard about Bernie in 2015, I gave up on Obama. So when I saw Bernie, I felt hope. I'm like, he's not going to get very far. And I checked back like maybe 4 or 5 months later, and he was blowing up. I'm like, okay, I need to get on the Bernie train. And I took it serious from then. I went to every rally, did everything I could. I don't know, I try to make a difference, And if God forbid he doesn't make it, if he doesn't make it, what we need to do is we need to take the progressive movement independent, not democratic, independent. We need to hype up independent media as much as we can. It's important. We need to come up with a game plan that we can all stick together with. We can't let them win.